Her parents last saw her asleep in her own bed, sometime around 2:30 in the morning. By 6:30, she was gone, and somehow, in the hours in between, 9-year-old Asha Degree had gotten dressed, packed a book bag, and walked out into a violent overnight storm, alone, along a rural North Carolina highway. Truck drivers saw her walking through the rain before dawn. One of them turned his truck around to check on her. She ran into the woods and was never seen again. For 24 years, this looked like an unsolvable mystery. Then, starting in 2024, investigators began releasing search warrants that suggested they finally believed they knew where to look, not at a stranger, but at a family less than a mile from the Degree home. As of this recording, no one has been arrested. This is Asha's story, and it is still very much unfolding. This is Unsolved and Unforgotten. Tonight's case has generated more public court documentation in the last 2 years than in the previous 22 combined. Everything in this episode is drawn from official search warrant affidavits, FBI statements, and verified reporting through February of 2026. Being named in a search warrant is a legal step separate from being arrested or charged, and no individual discussed in this episode has been charged with any crime connected to Asha's disappearance. Part 1. Shelby's Sweetheart. Asha Degree was born on August 5, 1990, in Shelby, North Carolina, a small city in Cleveland County in the western part of the state. By February of 2000, she was 9 years old, a fourth grader described by those who knew her as shy but spirited. In the years since her disappearance, she has become known throughout her community by an affectionate nickname, Shelby's Sweetheart. Asha lived with her parents, Harold and Aquila Degree. There was nothing in the days leading up to February the 14th, 2000 Valentine's Day that her family or investigators have ever pointed to as an explanation for what happened that night. Family members last saw Asha asleep in her bedroom at approximately 2:30 in the morning on February the 14th. There was no sign of forced entry into the home. Search dogs brought in during the initial investigation found no strong or consistent scent trail leading away from the house, a detail investigators have long found difficult to reconcile with a 9-year-old simply deciding, on her own, to walk out into a storm in the middle of the night. At some point between 2:30 and 4 o'clock that morning, Asha left her home. She took a book bag with her, packed with some of her belongings. Why she left, and whether she left entirely on her own, has never been established with certainty. Between approximately 3:45 and 4:15 that morning, at least 2 motorists reported seeing a young girl matching Asha's description, walking along North Carolina Highway 18, roughly 1.3 miles from her home, in the middle of what witnesses described as heavy rain and wind. One driver, concerned by the sight of a child alone on a rural highway before dawn in a storm, turned his vehicle around to check on her. According to his account, when he approached, the girl left the roadside and ran into a wooded area beside the highway. That is the last confirmed sighting of Asha Degree by an independently identified witness. A statement of probable cause later filed by investigators would allege something further, that Asha was seen being pulled into an older model green car, believed by investigators to be a 1970s-era Lincoln, Thunderbird, or similarly styled vehicle, at some point along that same stretch of highway. This detail, when it became public years later, would become one of the most consequential pieces of the entire case. Asha's parents woke to find her missing at approximately 6:15 that morning. They reported her missing by 6:30. In the day following Asha's disappearance, searchers found candy wrappers and a hairbow believed to belong to Asha in a shed near the wooded area where witnesses had seen her run. More than a year later, in 2001, construction workers discovered Asha's book bag, wrapped inside 2 sealed black plastic garbage bags, buried along North Carolina Highway 18 in Burke County, more than 30 miles from where she had last been seen, near the town of Morganton. The bag still had Asha's name and phone number inside it. The distance and deliberate concealment of the book bag, sealed inside 2 layers of trash bags and buried at a construction site well outside the immediate search area, struck investigators from the outset as inconsistent with a runaway scenario, and consistent instead with someone actively working to dispose of evidence. A billboard now stands at the location where witnesses saw Asha run into the woods, and her family holds an annual memorial walk retracing her route from their home to that site to keep the case in public memory. For the better part of 2 decades, Asha's case followed the familiar arc of a long unsolved disappearance. Periodic renewed appeals, age progression images released by the FBI, and a family that never stopped believing an answer was possible. In 2015, the FBI formally joined state and county authorities in a renewed investigation, offering a reward for information. On the 20th anniversary of Asha's disappearance, in February of 2020, her mother, Asha Degree, told the FBI in an interview that she still believed her daughter was alive, stating plainly that she did not believe a 9-year-old could simply vanish without someone, somewhere, knowing something. The reward for information leading to a resolution of the case has grown over the years and now stands, according to the FBI's official case listing, at up to $50,000. The most significant development in the case's 26-year history began quietly, with renewed forensic testing of the evidence recovered from Asha's book bag in 2001, evidence that, like so much else in this case, had waited years for technology capable of extracting more from it. According to search warrant documents made public in September of 2024, investigators determined that DNA recovered from items inside Asha's book bag was linked to 2 individuals, a man named Roy Underhill, who has since died, and who had lived at properties associated with a family named Dedman, and one of the Dedman family's 3 daughters, who was 13 years old at the time of Asha's disappearance in 2000. It's essential to be precise here. A DNA link on recovered evidence indicates that person's DNA was present on the material at some point. It does not, on its own, establish how it got there, when it got there, or what role, if any, that person played in Asha's disappearance. Investigators treated it as significant enough to pursue aggressively, but it is not, by itself, proof of a crime. In September of 2024, federal, state, and local law enforcement, including the FBI, North Carolina's State Bureau of Investigation, and the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office executed search warrants on multiple properties connected to the Dedman family, including a home in Shelby, a property in Charlotte, and an assisted living facility in Vail, North Carolina. Investigators seized a range of items, including electronic devices, a green 1964 AMC Rambler with visible front-end damage, and, according to warrant documents, a human tooth recovered in a plastic bag. No human remains were found during that search. According to a spokesperson for the Dedman family who later addressed this specific piece of evidence publicly, the family disputes that they owned the vehicle at the time Asha disappeared, pointing to public title and registration records. The spokesperson says, "Show the car was not registered to the family until a full month after February the 14th, 2000. In February of 2025, further search warrants were released to the public, revealing additional detail. According to those documents, investigators questioned family members and associates, and Cleveland County Sheriff's investigators stated in warrant filings that they believed Asha had been the victim of a homicide and that her body had been deliberately concealed. The warrants also named Roy and Connie Dedman as suspects in the case, a formal investigative designation, distinct from an arrest or a criminal charge, indicating that investigators believe there is reason connecting them to the crime under investigation. The same February 2025 warrants included an account from a man who told investigators that, years earlier, at a social gathering, he had heard one of the Dedman daughters make statements suggesting involvement in Asha's death, an account relayed secondhand to police, which the warrants describe investigators pursuing as a lead, not as a confirmed confession. Separately, warrant documents describe a polygraph examination administered to one of the Dedman daughters, in which she was assessed by the examiner as having been deceptive when asked whether she was withholding information, though polygraph results are not admissible as evidence in North Carolina courts and are widely understood, even by investigators who use them, to carry real limitations as an investigative tool rather than a determination of fact. In the months following this coverage, the Dedman family began speaking publicly through a named family spokesperson for the first time. The spokesperson stated that the family disputes any connection to Asha's disappearance and characterized the intense public attention the family had faced, including widespread discussion across social media, as distinct from, and in his words, potentially unfair compared to whatever might eventually be established in an actual courtroom. The spokesperson also stated that the Dedman family, like the Degree family, wants the case resolved and the truth established. As of the most recent reporting available at the time of this recording, in February of 2026, officials have stated publicly that no confirmed connection between the Dedman and Degree families has been established, and that no arrests have been made and no charges have been filed against anyone in connection with Asha's disappearance. It is worth being as clear as possible, given how much has been alleged in this case over the past 2 years, about where the documented record actually stands. Investigators have stated publicly that they believe Asha Degree was the victim of a homicide and that her remains were deliberately concealed. Forensic evidence recovered from her book bag has been linked to 2 individuals connected to one specific family. Search warrants have named members of that family as suspects, and warrant documents include a second-hand account of an alleged admission and a polygraph result the examiner characterized as deceptive. None of that amounts to an arrest, a charge, or a legal finding of guilt. The family has denied any connection to the case. Asha's remains have never been found, and the precise circumstances of what happened to her after she ran into those woods on Highway 18 remain, as of this recording, unconfirmed. As of February of 2026, 26 years after Asha Degree disappeared, the investigation remains active and jointly pursued by the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office, the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation, and the FBI's Charlotte Field Office. Sheriff Alan Norman has stated publicly that he believes investigators are closer than they have ever been to a resolution, citing advances in forensic technology that were unavailable when the case began. Harold and Aquila Degree have continued to hold an annual memorial walk retracing their daughter's final known steps and continue to hope, more than a quarter century later, for an answer they can trust. If Asha Degree is alive today, she would be 35 years old. Asha Degree walked out of her family's home in the middle of the night, into a storm, carrying a book bag, for reasons no one has ever been able to explain. 26 years later, investigators believe they know far more than they once did about what may have happened to her. But knowing and proving remain 2 very different things. And as of this recording, no one has been held legally responsible for whatever happened to her that night. This case is a reminder that under investigation is not the same as solved, and that the space between a search warrant and a courtroom verdict can stretch on for years, carrying real consequences for everyone named inside it, guilty or not, until it finally closes. If this episode helped you understand where this case actually stands, separate from what's circulating on social media, please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to Unsolved and Unforgotten for our next case. Anyone with information related to Asha Degree's disappearance is asked to contact the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office or the FBI's Charlotte Field Office. She is missing. She is not forgotten.